Working as a night guard in a haunted Iowa store, 7 sinister rules revealed that will terrify you. Amelia never thought working as a security guard at an abandoned general store might lead to horror stories that'd haunt her every waking moment. But as she sat in the dimming light of the skeletal building, every creak of the old floorboards reminded her she was not alone. The once bustling heart of town was now a graveyard of memories, filled with whispers that rattled her soul. Shadows danced in the corners, slipping out of her view like nightmares. She gripped her flashlight, trying to ignore the chill biting at her skin and the mounting terror coiling around her heart. "This is just nonsense," she muttered, but the echoing silence swallowed her words. That unsettling feeling pressed against her chest as the lights overhead flickered, plunging her into darkness for a heartbeat before coming back to life. She forced herself to focus. Her daughter was asleep miles away, blissfully unaware of the sacrifices her mother was making to keep them afloat. But in that moment, alone in the haunted store, fear clawed through her sanity. As night deepened, the weight of her surroundings felt alive. Old boxes lined the aisles like forgotten tombstones, just waiting to spring a surprise. A gust of wind rattled the rusty doors, and something about it felt foreboding, as if the very air around her held secrets meant to suffocate. She recalled the townsfolk speaking of the place, the old store owner whose darkness still lingered, whose spirit clung like greasy fingerprints to its dusty shelves. Then came the first sinister element, an irresistible urge that dragged her toward the back room, drawn by a force she couldn't resist. The floorboards groaned under her weight as she fancied hearing her name whispered in the dark. A shudder grabbed her spine. Her heart raced. "Who's there?" she hollered, voice trembling, but only silence answered. She wished she hadn't ignored her gut feeling to stay home. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. With her heart pounding in sync with the flickering lights, Amelia stumbled upon a battered ledger hidden beneath a rotten floorboard. Her hands shook as she opened it, dusty pages revealing entries that started innocently enough. But soon, an unsettling chill enveloped her as she read the 7 rules etched into the fading ink. Bound, it seemed, to the store, a bond she could not grasp. Each broken rule unleashed chaos, boxes toppled, the air thickened, and shadows stretched, as if mocking her with every tremor. She had to know more. As her mind spiraled into obsession, whispers from nearby houses wormed their way into her consciousness, revealing a tangled history intertwined with her own. Her little girl, lost in photographs scattered through the pages of the ledger. Was it some sick joke? The laughter of a past she couldn't escape echoed through warped corners of her mind. Just as realities began to shift and merge, the ground beneath her trembled with an unseen force, reminding her this was no ordinary shift. An old man's spirit. Her own buried fears. She braced herself, feeling dread seep from the very walls of that place, searching. As shadows thickened around her like hungry wolves, Amelia knew she faced an unspeakable reckoning. Would she survive the night? The store pulsed with life, waiting for her answer. The shadows pressed harder, wrapping around her as if trying to pull her deeper into their embrace. Breathless, Amelia turned her gaze back to the ledger. It felt like it shimmered, alive, the pages fluttering as if coaxed by an invisible hand. The rules taunted her now, turning into threats that slithered around her mind. Rule 1, never ignore the whispers. A cold gust ripped through the store, sending a shiver down her spine. She tried to shake the creeping dread, but it clung to her. Whispering came from the corners now, not just her name but pleading cries, sinister wails that echoed off the walls. Her heart raced. It was as if the very foundation of the building slipped into madness, something sharp pierced through the chaos. The sound of cracking wood beneath her feet. Her breath quickened, adrenaline surged. Had she broken a rule already? Panic settled heavy in her chest. She edged toward the aisles, her flashlight beam revealing the outlines of long-forgotten goods. Dusty jars lined the shelves, expired labels peeling off like old scars. A chill swept in as another whisper floated through the air, clearer this time. It sounded like "Help me." Amelia froze. "Who are you?" Heedless of the advice, she called out, her voice strained but defiant. The only answer was the echo of her own fear bouncing back at her. Rule 2, do not seek the trapped. Her grip tightened on the flashlight. What did it mean? Who was trapped? The air shifted, and her instincts screamed at her to flee. But if she surrendered to that instinct, might she be leaving a soul behind? With every muscle tense, she stepped forward, the flashlight sweeping the aisles. It caught a glimpse of a figure cloaked in shadow. Just a flicker, but it was enough. Amelia's heart stopped as familiarity washed over her. Her daughter Mommy. The faint, breathy cry echoed in the hushed air, pulling her into an abyss of dread and hope. She moved towards it, but the shadows twisted, warping her path. Amelia's legs felt leaden, the weight of the store's despair dragging her back. Rule 3, give in, and you'll forever be lost. Her instincts told her to go, to escape, but she couldn't abandon the whispered pleas. Are you here? She called, fumbling through the threatening darkness. The masked figure seemed to shimmer, just beyond her reach. Shadows clawed and tugged at Amelia, pulling her back as despair threatened to swallow her whole. Desperately, she searched for light, for truth, for something that wasn't twisted by the store's horrors. Suddenly, the flickering lights overhead steadied, illuminating a path. Before her, a faded portrait hung crooked on the wall. As she approached, she recognized the face above the old ledger the store owner. His eyes, though dark as ink, seemed alive, watching her, pleading. Rule 4, beware the face that feasts on fear. Sweat dripped down her back as the words wrung her heart. Amelia stiffened, recalling the verdicts of the townsfolk. The man had been a tyrant in life. What made him linger now? Another piercing wail punctured the silence, forcing her attention back to the lurking shadows. She was losing precious moments. The figure flickered again, close enough now that she could almost touch it. Mommy, don't leave me, she stumbled, torn between the urge to save her daughter and the realization of the darkness within the walls. Was this an alluring deception? Or was there a chance to bring the lost back into the light? The air crackled, and Amelia felt something shift, a sinister presence stirring restless in the shadows. Heart racing, she took a deep breath, knowing she had only one choice to make. With resolve, she stepped forward into the looming darkness, her eyes locked on that elusive figure. Would she confront her fears and risk everything to uncover the truth? Or would the haunted past keep her forever trapped within the store's sinister grasp? Just then, a loud crash broke the silence. She spun around, breath caught in her throat. Something was coming. Shadows loomed larger, closing in. What would Amelia face next in this waking nightmare? As her heart thundered in her ears, she knew she was about to find out. The crash echoed like thunderclaps, shaking Amelia to her core. She turned, gripping the flashlight tightly. The beam flickered, momentarily illuminating the walls that seemed to breathe, pulsing with something dark and alive. Sweat dripped down her forehead, mingling with the dread pooling in her stomach. Then, from the darkness, a pair of burning eyes appeared, shining like embers in the blackness. Amelia's breath caught as the figure stepped into the dim light. It was a woman, her face gaunt, eyes wide and wild, a twisted smile clawing at her lips. "Help me," the woman croaked. Amelia's heart raced. "Are you trapped?" She stammered, recalling the rules. Rule 2 echoed hauntingly in her mind. This was how it started, wasn't it? The whispers, the cries. Could she really trust what she saw? The woman reached toward her. "You have to help before it takes me." What did it take? Amelia dared to ask, feeling every fiber in her being urging her to back away, to flee into the enveloping shadows. But she couldn't. Not now. Not when the possibility of reuniting with her daughter hung in the balance. The woman's laughter cracked like thunder, chilling Amelia to her bones. It feeds on despair, sweet child. And hope is the juiciest feast of all. The shadows began to shift, swirling around the woman like a dark whirlpool. Amelia blinked away the fog of fear clouding her mind, forcing herself to remember the warmth of her daughter's voice, the love woven through her heart. What if I help you? She whispered, the question hanging heavily in the air like smoke. Suddenly, the woman's eyes narrowed, and she leaned closer. You'll have to make a sacrifice, she hissed, her voice dripping with malice. What will you give to save one who is lost? A cold wave of realization crashed over Amelia, crushing her. No, I won't give anyone up. The woman's face twisted into a snarl, her form elongating, stretching amid the shadows, twisting and distorting. Then you'll be the next meal. The store hungers. Amelia staggered back, the oppressive darkness pushing against her, trying to absorb her spirit. Panic surged, and she swung the flashlight wildly. The beam flared out, illuminating twisted remnants of shelves creeping closer, a flood of despair clawing at her. Mommy, please. Her daughter's voice sliced through the chaos, sharper than glass, pulling Amelia's heart. Stay away. She shouted into the encroaching darkness, more furious than afraid. You won't have us. The walls shuddered at her defiance, and the woman screeched, a banshee cry that vibrated through the store, rattling its very foundations. Amelia could feel a tremor running through the floorboards, the air thickening around her, suffocating almost. Then, one by one, the blackened shelves began to tilt, creaking as they leaned closer, like eager predators. They whispered with voices both familiar and strange, echoing words Amelia had once heard in her own dreams. Join us, become one of us. No. Amelia shrieked. She charged forward, her flashlight illuminating the path ahead. Every step felt like quicksand, dragging her closer to despair. I won't end up like you. Suddenly, the lights flickered again and the room erupted in a flash of brightness, revealing the depths of the shadows. In that blinding moment, Amelia caught sight of her daughter, helplessly reaching out, the light cascading around her like an embrace. But just as fast as it appeared, the light vanished, and a chilling whisper rose around her. One must be forever lost. An understanding flickered through Amelia's mind, a horrifying realization that shook her to the core. It was a game, a trap, and the price was steep. What was the darkness truly after? With time running thin, and her heart pounding, Amelia reached for the ledger again, feeling the heavy weight of the rules. But could she turn back now? As shadows lunged from the corners, she braced herself, desperate to decipher the ledger's final truths. How many sacrifices would it take to emerge unscathed from this nightmare? The air thickened with tension, the hunted and the hunters dancing dangerously close together. Despite the growing horror, Amelia steeled herself, ready for whatever came next. Just then, something flickered in the darkness beside her, a new face. Who was it? And would the price of freedom be more than Amelia was willing to pay? Amelia stood frozen, the revelation hanging in the air like a heavy fog. The flicker in the darkness grew closer, a figure coalescing from the shadows. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but the desperate need for her daughter pulled her back. Who are you? Amelia demanded, her voice trembling, eyes darting around for the woman and the shelves. The figure emerged, a young man, almost delicate, with hollow cheeks and wild hair, similar to the gaunt woman but softer around the edges. You shouldn't have come here, he whispered, voice barely more than a rasp, trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. It's not what it seems. Tell me. Amelia pressed, her heart hammering in her chest. What do I need to know? He glanced toward the shadows, fear etching his features. You must understand, it wants you. All of you. The sacrifice isn't just flesh, it's hope, trust, anything that connects you to the light. Amelia's pulse quickened. But my daughter, she is here. I need to save her. A shudder ran through him, as if he could feel the darkness clawing at his sanity. The store will twist your heart. It demands a choice, something from you, or it feeds on your anguish until you become part of its hunger. No. She shouted, a desperate panic surging through her. I want to give it anything. The shadows writhed, reacting to her defiance. The shelves creaked like ancient trees in an unseen wind, pulling closer, pressing in on all sides. You must. The young man urged. You don't understand. It will make you choose. Before Amelia could respond, the woman from before lunged from the darkness, her form splintering like shattered glass, each piece twisted with malice. Do you feel it? The despair. The chaos. The whispering shelves crowded in. Join us, Amelia. You can't fight it. It knows you, it knows your fears. In horror, Amelia felt the air grow thick, humid with despair that wrapped around her like chains. This is a game. She yelled, refusing to bow down, to crumble. I can break its grip. The young man raced forward, eyes wide with terror. No. You'll invite it in. It's too late. You have to save yourself. But then, flickers of movement caught her eye. Shadows danced along the periphery, undulating in a macabre rhythm that echoed with her own frantic heartbeat. They weren't just whispering words, they were echoing her memories, her regrets, her darkest thoughts. Just as they began to encompass her, she lifted the flashlight, aiming for the heart of it all. The pulsing, breathing darkness, light flooded the room, revealing the demonic faces pressed against the shelves, contorted in raw anguish. The young man's expression twisted with tears, but his voice rang out, urgent. Amelia. The ledger. It holds the answers. She fumbled for it again, her hands shaking. The rules felt alive, moving under her touch. Panic evaporated into a steely determination as she read through them frantically. Each page whispered demands, whispers that twisted her stomach. Choose your sacrifice. The woman shrieked, her voice piercing through the cacophony. Only then can you leave. A roar exploded around her, the chaos intensifying, pulling at her soul. Darkness pressed in, and she could almost feel the icy breaths of countless lost souls. Fear flickered in her heart, but deep down, a fire ignited. I want to play your game. She bellowed, but could she refuse? The whispers began to drown her out, clawing into her mind. You have no choice. We're starving. As shadows closed in, her determination wavered, her thoughts spinning like a carousel. Her daughter, herself, the young man's pleading eyes, the tortured faces surrounding her, what was the price she was willing to pay? And when it came down to it, what was more terrifying, a desperate choice or the slavery of fear? With each passing second, a realization struck her heart like a thunderclap. Freedom came at a cost, one that she hadn't yet grasped. Suddenly, she felt a hand pressing against her back, warm, solid. It was the young man, but the comforting presence quickly turned icy, twisting into something dark. You need to let go. With the impending darkness threatening to consume her, Amelia felt the ledger break open in her thoughts, revealing a shocking truth. Would she sacrifice her hope, her daughter, or something else entirely? The shadows surged like a storm, ready to claim what was theirs. As a deafening roar echoed through the store, Amelia prepared to make the choice that could shatter everything, but would she find the strength to escape what waited in the endless dark? Amelia's heart thundered in her chest, the shadows clawing at her sanity. The weight of the ledger felt heavy in her hands, its pages pulsing with urgency, as if demanding her attention. She held it tighter, drawing every ounce of strength, every moment of clarity she had left. The young man's eyes, once pleading, now shimmered with an otherworldly glow that froze her. You have to trust me. The sacrifice, it doesn't have to be a life. You can give it what it craves without destroying yourself. You don't know what it wants. Amelia faced the encroaching darkness. I want to let it take my daughter. A sorrowful laugh echoed from the depths of the store, their voices a chorus of twisted laughter that made her stomach churn. You think you can fight it? You're already so close to breaking. You'll bring her here, too. Panic surged through her veins. She thought of Sophie, so innocent, so vulnerable. What do I do? She cried. Think about what you value most. It preys on your despair so you can use that against it. He gestured wildly as if grasping for air in a drowning sea. Your daughter's light, that's the purest currency you have against it. A shadow shot past her vision, followed by the shattering of glass somewhere in the dark corners of the store. Each sound echoed like a death knell, a hollow reminder of the stakes at play. Adrenaline surged, and she knew time was running thin. The shelves began to swirl, the items on them warping and twisting as if alive. Think. She urged herself, memories flooding in, each one a winding road leading her back to the one thing she always cherished, the bond with her daughter. Their laughter, the joy of shared moments, felt like beacons amid the terror. Give that energy to the store. Combine your fears with love. Create your own path, the young man insisted, his voice rising above the chaos. It doesn't have to consume you. It wants to break that bond. It thrives on the doubt in your heart. She clutched the ledger tighter, breath hitching as panic bubbled in her throat. The terrible truth loomed like a specter, but within it flickered a thin sliver of hope. Come, join us. The voices hissed from the shadows, urging her to surrender everything, her happiness, her daughter, even herself. Accept despair. It will be simpler. No. She screamed, her voice ricocheting off the walls like a bullet. I will not accept despair. I will not let you win. In that moment, she envisioned her daughter, the warmth of her genuine smile, the glow of her laughter intermingling with despair. Amelia hurled those memories outwards, merging them with the chaos around her. The shadows writhed, drawn into the light, momentarily retreating, but their appetite was insatiable. Strengthen it, Amelia. Push it back. The young man shouted, eyes wide with the frenzy of hope and horror. As the shadows recoiled, she felt a wave of warmth wash over her. But the dark was relentless, slinking back, eager to snatch away her newfound power. A gnawing fear clutched at her mind. It wanted her weakness. Choose your sacrifice. The lady's echo stirred the air once again, taunting, beckoning. Could she sacrifice her pride, her will? Or was it more painful to offer up a part of herself that wanted nothing more than to protect Sophie? As Amelia stood on the precipice of decision, the ledger flipped open once again, revealing a passage that made her blood run cold, a twisted element that would demand not just a piece of her spirit, but possibly her very sanity. Amelia's breath quickened. The darkness loomed, endless and hungry. The chilling laughter echoed. Full of vibrant despair, the shadows closed in again, ready to feast. What depth of sacrifice could she endure? Would she unleash the darkness around her, or find the last remnants of light to save not just herself but her daughter? In the throes of madness, she braced for the choices ahead, unsure whether they held salvation or damnation. As the walls trembled and the shadows danced menacingly, the air crackled with impending doom, leaving one question hanging heavy in the air: what was Amelia prepared to lose to escape? A guttural roar erupted from the shadows, sending Amelia staggering back. The sound twisted around her, echoing through the shelves as darkness seemed to pulse with an almost tangible hunger. Her heart raced as she tried to shake the suffocating fear enveloping her. She could not lose herself to the madness. Amelia. Focus. The young man's desperate voice broke through the chaos, yanking her back from the edge. What do you love most? Offer that to it. Show it your strength. The shadows twisted, their dark forms coiling around like snakes, hissing promises of despair and anguish. It felt suffocating, a thick smoke that clawed at her throat. She fought to remember her daughter. Remember the joy. Remember everything pure. But every thought of Sophie was met with darker visions of shadows creeping into her room, of whispers echoing beneath her bed. Had she put her daughter in danger by coming here? She felt herself teetering on the edge of a deep chasm, one filled with nothing but despair. With trembling hands, she opened the ledger again. The pages fluttered like a creature trying to escape its cage. Strange symbols glimmered in the dim light alongside words that felt like spells, as if the entire book thrummed with life. Create your path, create your path. The words pulsed through her skull like a chant, syncing with the racing of her heart. Do it. The young man shouted. This is what you have your love. Amelia closed her eyes and envisioned Sophie's laughter, the warmth of her small hand in hers as they shared stories under a blanket fort. The memories ignited a fire within her, pushing against the shadows that pressed in from all sides. Leave her alone. She shouted, the intensity of her voice causing the shadows to recoil, a momentary flicker of light breaking through. I want to let you have her. But the shadows screeched, a high-pitched wailing that made her bones rattle. You think you can fight your despair? They slithered closer, cold air brushing against her skin. Every moment of weakness is ours to consume. With each word, the taunting laughter that filled the air grew louder, mingling with the screams of the damned, dark figures materializing from the corners of the store. No! She screamed, raising the ledger high above her head, wielding it like a shield. The shadows paused, momentarily shocked by her defiance. They faltered. Now, Amelia. Offer it your love. Summoning every ounce of strength, she poured every cherished moment with Sophie into the air, her hopes and laughter weaving threads of light. The shadows writhed, seeking to extinguish the glimmer, but Amelia fought back, urging the memories to fill the store, saturating the air with love. Take this. She cried. You want to break me? You will not have what you crave. A bright light exploded from the ledger, illuminating the entire store. Shadows shrieked in pain, shrinking back, but beneath the intense light, she saw the truth. They were not just monsters. They were remnants of despair, echoes of what she feared losing. Yet as the light pushed them back, something else flickered beyond the darkness, something darker than she had ever imagined. A figure took shape, looming higher than the shelves, its presence commanding and intimidating. Its voice slithered into her mind, sweet like poisoned honey. You think you can be free of your sorrow? I can offer you a way out, Amelia. The offer tinged the air with temptation, wrapping around her. The urge to grasp it pulled at the edges of her sanity. Would this be the ultimate sacrifice? Don't listen! Shouted the young man, his eyes wide with fear. It will drown you. But the seductive voice whispered softer, promises of peace washing over her like a tranquil tide. Amelia struggled, caught between acceptance and denial. What would be lost if she gave in? What would she gain? With the shadows slipping away and the light fading, she had one choice left: she could stand firm against the darkness or become one with her deepest despair. Would the allure of freedom come at the expense of everything she loved? The shadows churned, desperate for her decision. The question loomed in the thickening air: what price would she pay to reclaim her life? Would she gamble everything, even the bonds that held her heart? Amelia's mind spiraled, her world tumbling along with it. Each heartbeat pounded in her ears as the figure loomed closer, a grotesque silhouette carved from her nightmares. Don't listen! The young man cried again, his voice trembling, piercing through the tension like a desperate blade. What do you want? She shouted, trying to regain control. The figure's smirk widened, shadows swirling lazily around it like dark smoke. I want nothing but to free you from your burdens, Amelia, it crooned, its tone deceptively soothing. You carry the weight of your grief like a millstone. Allow me to vanquish it. Her breath caught. Freedom. The word rang through her, echoing in the recesses of her heart. The thought of relinquishing the ache that clawed at her chest was intoxicating. But at what cost? A memory flickered, Sophie's smiling face pulled from the depths of her despair. Your daughter is in danger because of you, the figure whispered, eyes glimmering with malice. You can protect her if you only accept my gift. No. She screamed, hurling the ledger to the ground. The thud reverberated as if the entire store held its breath. You're lying. The shadows recoiled, writhing as though startled by her ferocity. But the figure remained, unyielding. Lies and truth coexist, my dear. However, I do not lie when I say I can provide an escape from the torment of motherhood. With every word it spoke, Amelia felt the room warp around her. The shelves, once sturdy, leaned dangerously, as if sucked into the nothingness that surrounded them. The air thickened, a heavy stew brewed with fear and desperation. Your love is strong, but so are your fears. She felt suffocated. Her eyes darted around the dim space, desperate for an exit, an anchor. The shadows hissed, a venomous chorus dancing amongst the cluttered shelves. Accept the offer, they urged. Cast off those chains. No. Her voice was stronger now, born from a maternal instinct that had been waiting to resurface. I refuse to let fear dictate my choices. The figure's brow furrowed, its promised peace now unraveling into something sinister. So be it, it hissed, nostrils flaring with dark malice. Then you will bear your grief forever. Those words sent a palpable chill down her spine. This was real. This thing, this darkness, wasn't merely a manifestation of her suffering, it was aware of it. Make your choice, Amelia, the figure snarled, shadows swirling with fury, pushing forward like a tide. The light from the ledger flickered, threatening to diminish to nothing. Give in or perish. In that instant, the young man lunged, trying to push Amelia back as the darkness surged. You're not alone in this. He shouted, his hands gripping her arms tightly. Amelia's focus sharpened. She glanced down at the ledger, now pulsing weakly at her feet, struggling against the tide of despair. She could sense the weight of her decision bearing down on her, each choice pulling her in opposite directions. Find your strength. The young man urged, panic only adding fuel to her fire. Use the ledger. With her heart racing, she bent low, snatching the book and flipping it open, fingers tracing over the symbols. Memories surged from deep within, joy clashed with terror, illuminating her resolve. I will protect her. And in that moment of clarity, she stood tall, summoning all the love she had for Sophie. I will not be broken. She declared, her voice fierce. The shadows hesitated, sensing the shift in her power. But just as the light began to grow once more, a low growl rumbled from the depth of darkness, slicing through her newfound courage. This isn't over, Amelia. The figure faded into the shadows, but its voice lingered, a cruel echo haunting her mind. You will pay your price eventually. For the first time, Amelia felt a tremor of doubt creep in. What price was she to pay? As the darkness thinned, questions swirled like smoke in her mind. Who was she fighting? Was it truly the shadows, or something deeper dwelling within her? With uncertainty clutching at her throat, she swallowed hard, heart pounding as she stepped forward into the pale light. But would the victory come with unseen chains tightening around her heart? The answer hovered like a shroud, waiting for her in the shadows. The dim light flickered and then steadied as Amelia edged further into the space, heart thundering in her chest. Fragments of her life were locked inside, battling against the writhing shadows still whispering her name. Amelia, they taunted, slithering through the gaps in her resolve, threatening to pull her under again. Shut up. She snapped, the words bursting forth, desperate and raw. They echoed off the walls, the sound returning to her cloaked in a thick layer of dread. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and focused on the weight of the ledger in her hand. This was no ordinary book, it was the tether between light and dark, between action and inaction. The young man pushed beside her, eyes wide with fear and worry. We have to keep moving. The longer we stay, the stronger it gets. What if it knows something we don't? She murmured, biting her lip. The question hung heavy, casting shadows across her thoughts. Everything was fraying. What if I can't protect Sophie? His grip tightened around her arm. You can't let it talk you down. Trust yourself. Trust what's in that book. A flicker of courage flared. She opened her eyes, heart still pounding like a raging storm. We can't let it win. Steeling herself, she began to walk through the store. The shelves towered around her, looming and watchful, filled with dusty remnants of forgotten lives. Each step felt like crossing into a different reality, the air heavy with the weight of unshed tears and lost hopes. Shadows danced and swooped, playing tricks on her vision. Look! The young man called, pointing toward a corner where the shadows seemed to writhe with more fervor, sharp and twisted shapes merging into a swirling mass. As they approached, Amelia sensed a change in the atmosphere. A growing pulse, a heartbeat that was not her own. What do you want? She yelled, voice trembling but unwavering. Nothing but your acceptance. The ochre darkness began to swirl faster, forming limbs that reached out like gnarled fingers, wanting to latch onto her. You're too stubborn, Amelia. Let go of the burdens of life. Never. She shouted back, each word a declaration of her resistance. She raised the ledger, feeling its weight transform into something substantial, almost electric. The symbols on its pages began to glow, casting a dim light that pushed back the darkness. It's not just a book. The young man exclaimed, awe enveloping his voice. No. Amelia cried, flipping the pages. This is my story. But as more shadows swelled, something deep within rose, an echo she could barely grasp. A flicker of Sophie's laughter danced at the edge of her memory, reminding her of the love that was both a gift and an anchor. This is not just about me. She shouted, shaking off the lingering doubts. The dark figure raged, furious at her defiance. You think love will save you? It's just another chain holding you down. Amelia felt the familiar panic rise in her chest, the old fears creeping back, whispering lies. But then she thought of Sophie, her bright smile, the warmth of her small hand in hers. With a surge of passion, she fought against the cold grip of despair. Love is my weapon. You don't understand it. With one final forceful sweep, she dismissed the swirling shadows, pushing them back with the energy radiating from the ledger. The room trembled, and the ground beneath them cracked as if the very store reacted to her strength. But deep in the dark corners, laughter echoed a haunting sound, mocking and sinister. You think you've won? You will never know peace again. Amelia stumbled back, eyes wide with horror. What had she awakened? In that terrifying moment, she realized the shadows weren't just spirits, they were the manifestations of her deepest insecurities. She trembled, uncertainty clawing at her throat. The ledger pulsed in her grasp, vividly alive, but would she wield its power wisely? Dread settled in her bones. The shadows could very well be right. As she steadied herself against her fears, a chilling thought slithered into her mind. What will I lose to keep Sophie safe? That question, whispered through the dim store, hanging thick in the air, a threat waiting to unravel everything. The shadows pulsed again, hungry for answers. Would the heartache come from a choice, or was it a truth she would face alone? The store darkened around her once more, and as the walls groaned with the weight of secrets, Amelia steeled herself for the impending storm. She didn't know how long she could hold on to her light. Could she save herself and her daughter, or was this just the beginning of her descent into darkness? The shadows recoiled, hissing with anger at her defiance, while the air in the store grew thick with a palpable dread. Each breath Amelia took felt like a battle, the ledger writhed in her grip as if urging her to act. She felt watched, every corner cloaked in sinister silence, and that laughter still echoed from her own mind or something more malicious, she couldn't tell. Panic clawed at her once again. Amelia! The young man's voice pulled her from the brink. She turned to him, beneath the fear lay a spark of determination. The basement. There might be something down there, something that could help us. Are you crazy? She shot back, glancing towards the dark pit yawning at the back of the store. What if it's a trap? Do we have a choice? He flinched as the shadows writhed again, creeping closer. With no other path visible, they rushed toward the stairs, the wood creaking ominously under their weight. The darkness felt alive, breathing down their necks like a predator on the hunt. Each step down was a descent into a new horror. The basement air was colder, it turned her breath into icy clouds. Amelia shivered, wiping sweat from her brow. The faint glow from the ledger barely illuminated the damp concrete walls. Her heart raced in sync with the shadows that seemed to chase them down. As they reached the bottom, the light flickered, threatening to plunge them into darkness. She clutched the ledger tighter, its warmth grounding her in the chilling unknown. Around them, shapes swirled, shadowy forms twisted in torment, lost souls or figments of her fear. She couldn't tell. "We need to find something," the young man urged, desperation edging his voice. "What do you see?" "Just boxes," she whispered, scanning the space cluttered with remnants of old goods. Her gaze flickered across the floor until she saw it, a faint marking on the ground, a circle surrounded by strange symbols. It pulsed with energy, beckoning her like a siren's song. "What is that?" he breathed, stepping closer. "I don't know," but she hesitated, feeling the ledger vibrate against her skin. "It could be a sigil. Maybe it's a way to confront the darkness." Without thinking, she stepped onto the circle. A painful jolt surged through her body, a connection to the depths of her fears, her regrets. Memories flashed, her failures, her loneliness, and of course, the tender face of Sophie. The shadows writhed, anger boiling as she stood defiant. "I refuse to be just a casualty of this." A tumultuous wind stirred in the basement, pulling at the items around them, boxes tumbling like frantic spectators. The ledger glowed fiercely now, illuminating the sigil and igniting her determination. "I can control this," she declared, though a tremor undermined her conviction. "Are you sure?" the young man asked, eyes wide with concern. "What if it reacts badly?" Amelia could almost feel the weight of the shadows pressing against her skin, whispers hissing in her ears. "It's now or never." With a swift movement, she opened the ledger, reading aloud a portion she'd never seen before, an ancient invocation that vibrated with significance. The shadows screeched in protest, swirling into a violent vortex, hungry and relentless. "Amelia!" Her companion's voice trembled, clutching her arm. Red-hot fear shot through her as the lights began to flicker violently. "Hold on tight!" she yelled, raising the ledger higher. The moment felt electric, an intersection of light and darkness. Then everything erupted. A blinding light burst from the ledger, illuminating every corner of the basement, boiling the darkness into a fragile mist. Shadows recoiled, furious, but they weren't just shadows anymore, they took shape, lost forms of people twisting and clawing for freedom. "Let us go!" they screeched, echoing her deepest insecurities, their faces a reflection of her haunting past. Terror grasped Amelia's heart, but she pressed on, breathing deeply, focusing on Sophie's face, her laughter, her warmth. As the last remnants of darkness hissed and began to evaporate, a loud crash echoed from above. The ground trembled, something catastrophic was unfolding. "What now?" the young man shouted over the rumble, eyes wide with fear. Amelia's heart raced. "We need to contain this." As the walls of the basement began to crack, she felt the weight of the ledger pressing against her. Was it truly her ally, or was it a devil's deal made too long ago? Shadows clawed at her sanity while the light pushed back. She was caught in the battle not just for her survival but also for her very essence. With a final burst of desperate energy, she prepared to fight back once more, but would it be enough? The ledger radiated hope, but dread settled deep in her core. What awaited her and the young man as the darkness crashed at their threshold? Only a choice stood between them and the abyss. Would they have the strength to face the truth waiting in the shadows? Amelia braced herself against the crackling energy in the air. The shadows writhed and twisted, pulling back for just a moment as the blinding light from the ledger pulsed powerfully. Yet, the store's foundations trembled ominously beneath her, threatening to swallow her whole. Dark whispers filled the air. She could feel them tugging at her thoughts, pushing her into doubt. "You can't save her," they hissed, swirling around her like smoke. "You will lose everything." "No." Amelia shouted back, as fierce determination coursed through her. "I know what love is. I know the stakes." She thought of Sophie, locked away in the shadows, her voice bright and pure in the oppressive dark. "Mommy." The echo filled her heart, radiating warmth against the biting chill. The shadows seemed to hesitate, dwelling on her every fleeting thought. "Amelia." The young man's voice broke through the chaos as the ground continued to quake. "You have to focus. Use the light, face the history of this place." With a renewed sense of purpose, Amelia clutched the ledger. "I won't let you consume us," she bellowed, driving the words with every ounce of will she had. The shadows screamed, tendrils of darkness lashing out, but the light pushed forward like a shield, illuminating the chaos around her. "Embrace your fears." The ledger seemed to whisper. "Recognize them. Only then can you transcend them." Amelia inhaled sharply, letting the memories settle around her, moments of laughter, warmth, and love shared with Sophie. The afternoon sunshine that splashed across her daughter's face, the bedtime stories, the hugs that warmed their world. "A bond forged in love can never be broken," she cried, her voice a beacon in the gloom. Suddenly, the young man stepped closer, aiding her with a trembling focus. "Channel that into the circle. Combine the light and love with your fear. Confront what lies within." The darkness surged again, but this time she stood firm, bolstered by the memories that sprang to life with each heartbeat. The chaotic shadows screamed again, but the cries grew weaker. She stepped forward into the circle, feeling the pulse of life beneath her feet. "Let my love drown out your despair," she shouted, pouring every ounce of protective emotion into the ledger, allowing the echoes of past heartbreak and loss to swirl into something profound. Not her despair but her defiance. The shadows shrieked as the wave of light surged, twisting around them, and Amelia felt herself grow, rippling with the energy she summoned. "No more!" she roared, raising the ledger high. Suddenly, she felt a snap, a raw connection formed. "I release you," she declared, letting the memories flood the air, recalling the faces that had suffered here. "You are free." The light flared, illuminating the basement. Shadows screamed, swirling in a chaotic dance before bursting into vibrant motes of light, fading like long-buried secrets set free. The oppressive weight lifted, and with it, a part of Amelia felt lighter. She no longer bore the chains of despair. The shadows began to dissolve into nothingness, shimmering like embers in the breeze. "Do it," urged the young man, raising his voice against the receding darkness. "Complete your spell." With the final breath, Amelia recited every rule she had read from the ledger, weaving her love for Sophie in each word. The light surged brightly, piercing through the store's crumbling walls. And in that moment, everything exploded, the light shattering through the suffocating gloom, echoing like freedom ringing out across the town. With the power of love thrumming around her, she closed her eyes, whispering her final strength. "I choose love. I choose hope." She felt the warmth expand, wrapping around her like an embrace. The store rumbled and cried, but for the first time, Amelia faced it without fear. The walls trembled, but this was not the end, it was a rebirth. As silence followed, the basement melted away, and Amelia found herself standing in the daylight where the confines of the store used to trap her. The sunlight kissed her skin, brighter than she had remembered. "Mommy!" Sophie's voice rang through the air, and Amelia turned, tears brimming in her eyes. Sparkling in the sunlight, her daughter rushed forward, arms outstretched. Relief flooded through Amelia like a tidal wave, crashing against the remnants of fear still lingering in her heart. "I'm right here," Amelia breathed, scooping Sophie up into her arms. The warmth spread as they embraced, the shadows that once whispered now far behind them. As she held Sophie close, the young man approached, a soft smile playing at the corners of his lips. "You did it. You broke the cycle. They are gone. Amelia felt a lightness lift her spirit, finally at peace. Thank you, she said, overwhelmed with gratitude. With a nod, he began to fade into the light. Remember, love is always the answer. With that, Amelia turned back to Sophie, her heart full, ready to step into the next chapter of their lives, free from fear and suffocated despair. Let us go home, she smiled, resolving never to forget the strength that love had given her. As they walked away hand in hand, Amelia knew the darkness might return in other forms. But she also knew that love deep and unyielding would always be the compass guiding her back home. Now, listen up, everyone. You need to subscribe now to catch more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm. I want to see you flood that comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Amelia's journey. And for the love of all things thrilling, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this breathtaking conclusion. Show your support and be part of this amazing adventure. Let us keep this community growing, and I'd love to see you all next time.